Well, if you look at the headlines around the world regarding the ongoing trade spat between Washington and Beijing, focuses a lot on a lot of things about the impact on crude oil. But sometimes commodities get crushed in the fight, and folks sometimes do forget why that is very important for our breakfast, lunch, and dinner table. That's on the foreign side. But if you look locally, we have quite a number of issues to deal with. Electricity is one of them, and in particular, the move to increase electricity tariff by July next year. Nasuke Wajide is a member of the economic think tank and a research analyst at financial derivatives company live here in the studios with us. Nasuke, good morning. I'm sure you started thinking through what this higher electricity tariff being considered by the authorities will mean between 8 naira and 14 naira per kilowatt consumption per hour for July next year. We should be ready?
I think we should.
Think it's time?
Yes, it's about time. I mean, the industry is suffering from a lack of investment on the generating side. I mean, the incentive for any supplier is always the price.
On the distribution?
Yeah, the price. So if you raise the price or the tariff, the price is the tariff. If you raise the tariff on electricity, it incentivizes production. Now, you think of how much you spend on diesel, on alternative forms of energy. You spend about 3-4 times what you would spend on public power supply. So even if you increase the price from 8 to 14, that's not up to 100%. So if they can guarantee that this increase will spur, investment, which will lead to, more stability in power supply, then it's a good thing. I mean, there's no way to guarantee that now, but ordinarily, increased tariffs should mean increased investment.
If we don't raise tariffs, this industry will die. There's no other explanation to it. Yes. So we just need to take it on board.
Yes, I mean, it's something that some Nigerians may resist, given the fact that they've had promises made to them in the past. But I think the big issue is on the generating side, and obviously there's transmission infrastructure that needs to expand, which is still in government hands. I think that needs to be privatized. If you generate 10,000 megawatts of electricity at this point, transmission is still somewhere about 5,000, less than 5,000 megawatts. So that needs to increase to match generation. Obviously, the investments in the distribution side of things is also crucial at this point.
Looking at the burning economic issues, it looks like we have quite a lot on the outside and perhaps a little bit less on the inside as we speak. From the G7, taking the cue from last week, the G7 summit?
Yes, the major is the G7, the top 7, should I say, the most liberal
industrialized
industrial countries in the world got together. It used to be the G8, and Russia was ostracized after it annexed Crimea. And one of the issues that Trump brought up was trying to readmit Russia into the fray. I'm not sure how that went down.
So why did all of that, how does all of that feed into my commodities space?
Okay, obviously they talked about the other members of trade talks. Say, okay, look, this trade spat is causing recessionary fears globally. So I think after that, Trump tweeted that the Russians, the Chinese, made a couple of phone calls and are looking to reach some sort of truce. Reaching a truce, obviously, it would help to douse recessionary fears. Recessionary fears, obviously, the first thing that comes when it comes to global recession is the price of oil. But for other commodities, the soft commodities, the US and China, the US is the biggest producer of soybean. China is the biggest buyer of soybean. So the tariffs that are already in place, 25% on soybean, I mean, that's increased the price obviously in China. So the Chinese have been sort of buying less American soybean and are looking elsewhere, which is a plus for countries like Nigeria, who's a peripheral producer of, I mean, it has the capacity to ramp things up, but that's a topic for another day. The recent tweets by Trump, it made the Chinese put retaliatory or the threat of retaliatory tariffs an extra 5% on soybean.
By October?
Yes, by October. So the price.
So I think soybean will get additional tariff hit by September. But I think the moving so between September and October is getting too many dates on the calendars these days. It just looks like this fight is going to continue to the end of the year.
An extra 5% is not good, especially for the American producers.
So if you look at across the basket of soft commodities, what do we see right now, from wheat to sugar, and corn and all that?
Okay, for wheat, right now there's very strong global supply. So that has suppressed prices at the moment. For corn, U.S. is the biggest producer of corn. It's right now prices are moving up, driven by expectations of a weaker harvest in the U.S. Then there's cocoa. The biggest producers are the Ivory Coast and Ghana. Right now there's strong global demand, which is kind of driving up prices. But the outlook is such that there's favorable weather conditions in these two countries, and the production might increase, which will suppress prices. For sugar, there's a bumper harvest in Brazil and I think it's the other top producer is right now I can't remember at the moment, but Brazil and India. So the production in India, they have a bumper harvest in India.
They keep pushing out more.
Yeah,
it looks like it looks like quite a lot of issues are happening here on the commodities front. Most times we focus on oil, but it's good we talked about the agri prices and the outlook for soft commodities. Nosike, thank you so much. Let's leave it there for today. Thank you for tomorrow. You're back on Thursday, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let's continue from there on. I like the okra in my seafood delicacy. But again, maybe we'll talk about that on Thursday. Thank you so much, everyone. That's a bit of our commodities market update. Let's take a break, everyone. We'll come back and we'll have a bit more discussions around the state of the market.